run, do not walk to your computer or your phone and click add to cart and purchase or get on that wait list. When I met LA, I knew I wanted to work with her to develop my signature speech. And because I have a performance background, I knew that speaking would be the best way for me to naturally merge my worlds of college prep expertise and performance expertise. And I am loving what I'm learning so far. There are so many things that, even though I have stage experience, I wouldn't know would make a memorable speech that really gets to the core of what people want and need to hear in order to make a buying decision. I have already given, 3 talks since I started the class. I'm only halfway through and I have 2 or 3 more to go. And I am so indebted to LA for helping me feel confident and really just excited about what my talk is going to become in the next few weeks.
Well, hello, all my Be in Demand listeners. This is Laurie-Ann, and this is the podcast about all things visibility with speaking. So if you are a coach, a consultant, or a service provider looking to leverage speaking opportunities as your best form of marketing, showcase your expertise, and attract the perfect clients, then you are in the right place. One of the things I say over and over again is speaking needs to be redefined, and so do stages. So that's what we're going to dive in today, because guess what? The stage has been wildly misunderstood, and it's really changed in the past few years. For too long, I hear people say that speaking is only if you are on a big stage with big lights and a huge crowd of people holding a microphone. And the truth is, that's not the only form of speaking that's out there. And I want you to know that if you have a voice, you have a message, there's an audience out there for you. Even if you are only speaking with just a handful of people, you're speaking. So the first thing I want you to understand is that you don't have to be speaking to this massive amount of people. As a matter of fact, that might scare you. Scares a lot of my first-time clients. A lot of them come to me and they are afraid of speaking. But when I start to say like, hey, we get to speak on your terms, we get to create a stage that you feel comfortable on, that you feel confident on, that's when they exhale. So I'm going to walk you through 30 places. Yes, you heard that right. 30. I came up with a list and I came up with 30 places where you can show up and you can speak up so that you can stand out. The fun part about this is you don't have to rent your own ballroom so that you can host your own event. I mean, hosting your own event is one stage, but it's not the only stage. There are platforms that are out there that I bet you are already using and that you have access to, even if you've never been paid to speak. Because remember, I'm a big fan of showcasing your business. This is how we attract the perfect clients to us, how you get positioned as the expert. And when you're out standing on the stage, you get referred to other places. So you've heard me mention some of these different stages and places to speak. You know, everything from podcasts, hosting your own, guesting on others, to private communities and Instagram lives. But I have a whole lot more for you, because as you've heard me say, speaking is the fastest way to grow your business, build your authority, and connect with your ideal clients. So let's get on to the list. And I'm also going to share some stats with you. But before we do, I am curious if you are on my newsletter list. Are you receiving my newsletter? Now, I'm calling it a newsletter and not an email because there's so much information that is in here. My newsletters have a ton of information. So if you're not on the list and you want to be on the list, I want you to go to speakandstandout.com/news. And that link will be down below in the show notes. I do deep dives on topics. And I also share with you the different events that I'm hosting that most of them don't have any fees associated with it. Yep, you heard that right. Something's for free and of great value. So head on over to speakandstandout.com/news and get your name on the list so that the very next newsletter that's going out, you will be receiving inside of your inbox. So let's just talk about some of the stats. Just in case you're new around here, there are 225,000 association and professional trade groups. Now that sounds like a lot. And you probably are thinking, are you serious, Laurie-Ann? Are there really 250,000 associations? And the answer is yes. I have the book to prove it. It is no longer in print because it really it's a paper monster. That's what it is. I'm looking at it from here where I'm recording the podcast, and it's like Bible paper. It's that thin paper. And they used to print this every year and send it to all the libraries. So they've since stopped doing that. But if you can find a copy of this, and occasionally you'll see used copies from years ago sold on Amazon, on eBay, or any used bookstore, I would just say grab it. It's a great resource. It's a great reference book to have. But yeah, there really is 225,000 associations because there's an association for everything. My favorite example is especially when I'm on other people's podcasts talking about this, when you go to the circus or you go to the fair and there's that person that is blowing up those long skinny balloons and they twist and they turn into some cute little animal and then they hand it to a kid who is squealing with delight. There's an association for that. Yes. Balloon animals. There's an association for that. And a client of mine speaks in the real estate industry. And so just one day in between our calls, because I'm constantly thinking about my clients, I pulled out the book and I went to the real estate section. The real estate umbrella is what I'm going to call it. And I counted how many different associations were under that real estate umbrella. 134. 134 different associations under just real estate. There were two other umbrellas of real estate, like real estate investing and real estate management, that I didn't even bother to count those because I thought, hey, at 134, you could speak to this 134, or my client could speak to these different associations. 134, like every 4 years, start back up again. And he would have a great business model just speaking to those. But think about this. Those associations have chapters in every state. And some states have multiple chapters. And those chapters may have an annual conference or have twice a year conferences or have in-person and virtual meetings throughout the year. So I want you to start tapping into those associations. You want to find the associations where your ideal clients are hanging out. Or I would say you want to niche down so that you can find the ideal clients in those associations. And so what I mean by that is, we'll just take my real estate client. There's a very particular area and type of client that he's actually looking for. And so he focuses on those. So there might be 134 different associations, and he might still be able to speak in those because he's got two different audiences. He's got those that are actually going to buy and sell homes through him and those who can refer people to him. 250,000. So that's just how many associations there are. So the last time I looked at stats about speaking events, it was 20,000 every single day globally and 7,500 here in the US every single day. So the US has almost half of the meetings that are happening. And those numbers tell me that speaking is very much alive. But those stats come from MPI, Meeting Planners International. And those numbers, I bet, this is my hunch, is based on hotel rooms, conference rooms, someplace that has to be rented. And when you start hearing my list of 30, you're going to realize not everything is a hotel room that's been rented. So let's get on to some of these different places that you can be speaking. One is, do you have a podcast? And you don't have to have a podcast, but if you have your own podcast, consider that your own stage. You can be a guest on somebody else's show. Guesting is a whole strategy for building your business and marketing your business and attracting clients. Let's dive into live streaming. You can do an IG live once a week, every day. I always tell my clients, like, think of yourself as a show, a TV show. Even though we can binge seasons, but there are certain TV shows or the news that comes on at a very predictable time once a week, every single day, but it's predictable. So you teach your audience that you are going to be going live Mondays at noon, Tuesdays at 5 p.m., whatever is going to work for you. I remember once I used to have a Facebook Live show, and it was always Mondays at 5. And I was going to be traveling one day. So I was actually in the car driving somewhere with my younger sister. And so I said, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live. And we did. We did it in the car. She drove. And because my sister has arranged and planned a number of meetings, we just talked about meeting planners and meeting planning and what they're looking for, because we had this inside scoop with my sister and we just talked in the car. But for me, the show must go on. Think of the different ways that you can live stream: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. You can do IG stories. That could also be your stage. And nowadays you can take those stories and create a reel or some sort of a video with it so that it's not gone in 24 hours. But speaking of creating reels, you can be creating short form videos, pre-recorded YouTube videos. These are all different forms of stages. It might not be live, but that doesn't mean that you aren't being positioned as the expert and speaking and sharing your message and helping your ideal clients. Okay, let's talk about communities. Why not be a guest expert in a paid program or a paid membership? You could be speaking inside of other people's masterminds. And I've done both of those a lot. As a matter of fact, I love doing that for friends of mine when they refer me to their friends. I love speaking in other people's communities. And these are typically videos that are going to hang around for a long time. It's not just a one-time event. It's going to be there for future members to watch as a replay. And here's another great one, and I did this a couple of times last year, teaching a bonus module in somebody else's course. Why not? That, again, will live forever as long as that course and that bonus is available. And I've done that a couple of times. I've done it as a live masterclass, but also as a pre-recorded one. And when I did the pre-recorded one, after it was released, a few weeks later, I hosted an event inside that particular course as a Q&A call. I was happy to answer anybody's questions once they watched it. Now, I look at those Q&A calls that are like a follow-up as a little bit of an extra bonus, but it also tells me what other information are people really interested in. So look at that as content ideas. Do you have a Facebook group? You could be speaking in there. You could be having your own show in there. You could also be interviewed in somebody else's Facebook group. Okay, let's talk other virtual events. Are you seeing how extensive this list is? Webinars. The webinar can be yours. You can be a guest on somebody's webinar. Virtual summits. Whether you are running the summit, you are a speaker at somebody else's summit. Summits are a great way to have some condensed information with multiple speakers. And I'm seeing some very creative ideas for summits out there, not just on the topics, but how they're being run. Whether they are just audio, whether they're video and audio, whether the summit host is using a podcast as their platform for their summit, but there's so many creative ideas. They are really taking in the user, the person who is listening and attending, into consideration. Co-hosted workshops. Now, I've done this myself, and I've also had my own hosted workshops, and I love both of them. Both of them have been in person, and I've also hosted virtual workshops. I'll also add to this list challenges, weekly challenges, Or you could do it once a month, or it could be a day long or a week long. Like there's so many different ideas for challenges. And that can be the hard part for a lot of people because there's so many different ways to do this. But I just want you to see like, wow, if I do a challenge, that's another stage. That's another form of speaking. And you can do pre-recorded if you want so that people don't have to be watching every day at 7 a.m. or noon, whatever time is convenient for you. You can just like, I'm going to do them pre-recorded and the video is going to go live at 6 a.m. So no matter where somebody is in the world, they can watch it whenever it works for them. You can host your own mini trainings or like what I do, my speaker circles. If you don't know anything about my speaker circles, I just love doing this. This is a monthly training that I do. And it's limited to 12 people. I'll tell you about why the reason is behind that in a moment. But my speaker circle, these monthly trainings, I will teach on a topic from 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes. Then I open it up to the room for any questions and I will answer them right then and there. And then we go around the room and we network. So this is why it's limited to 12 people, because if there was 50 people, I wouldn't be able to allow people to actually introduce themselves and being able to share who they are, where they're from, and what topics they speak on. And this whole recording goes onto my podcast. So this is part of my audience being a part of my show now. And those are typically on Thursdays. And if you want to sign up for the next speaker circle, all you got to do is go to speakandstandout.com/community. And that link will be down below as well. So let's talk about your local community, Chamber of Commerce events, networking events, networking breakfast, any local business expos. Think about women in business meetups. Think about your church. What specific groups does your church cater to? Women's group, men's groups, kids groups. I mean, like, see if you can become a speaker to some of those. And there's so many churches in most communities. You can go from your church to a local church. And then there's so many different denominations also. How about doing lunch and learns? I know a lot of my clients are having a lot of success getting into companies and doing these lunch and learns. Here's another idea that most people don't think about. And I love sharing a lot of these ideas with my clients and also my students inside In Demand Signature Speech libraries. You can actually rent a room in a library for no cost. That's right, no cost, as long as you can open it up to the public and not charge and not promote anything. So this is also a great way to get some video footage, some really good photographs. And I have been part of audiences for fellow speakers and students who do this in libraries. And some of the libraries have theaters, have beautiful meeting rooms with actual stages. So beautiful, beautiful, perfect photograph opportunities. Okay, I still got a few more. You can guest lecture at a local college or a university or some sort of professional program. I've done this a number of times. There's several schools that are in the Boston area that I have spoken at, and I have been a regular guest lecturer at Hult and also Boston University. You could speak at your alumni events. And how about teaching inside some sort of a career development group? And here's a couple of other ideas that you might not have thought about. I mean, how many times have I already said that? How about if you did like weekly or monthly office hours? So anybody can show up. It could be open to the public. It could be open just to your clients, open to anybody in your Facebook group. But they come, they ask a question. And again, these are great content ideas. The questions that people are asking you, you can go off and create a program, create a speech, create a podcast episode, create some sort of a lead magnet. And then you could take those videos and just repurpose them later. So many different ideas. So what I really want you to understand is let's stop thinking about speaking as just a stage with a big giant audience. Lights are shining down on you. And you got to be perfect up there in your suit. It doesn't have to be like that at all. I mean, Hey, if you're going to be doing some virtual speaking, we all know that you just got to look good from like the waist up. But when you are speaking, I want you to think about the different ways that you can be repurposing this. How can you cut this up and maybe break it up into reels and short form videos? How can you be putting it on your podcast? How can you be putting it on your website? How can you be using this as bonus material for your programs, for somebody else's programs? Just try to think outside the box of speaking stages. So I hope that this has given you a lot of different ideas. And maybe some of those ideas you're feeling like, I could do that. I could do that one too. I could totally do that. That would totally be my stage. Well, I want you to do them. I just want you to get out there, because the more that you get out there, the more that other people are going to see you doing your thing. And the one thing that I'm noticing, and I'm speaking to a lot of influencers, both in LinkedIn, the podcast world, the speaking world, is that a lot of people, the way that they got started is they were just doing their thing. They didn't mean to become speakers. That wasn't their purpose. That wasn't their intent, but somebody saw them doing something wonderful and asked them, hey, I see what you're doing here. Would you come over here to this event that I'm running? And would you speak about XYZ? And most of the time, these people said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. They weren't professional, polished speakers, but they got that first rep out of the way and they had fun doing it. So just get out there and do your thing. Do your magic. Do your art. If you've got a message, I believe you have an obligation to get out there and share that message with others. If you've got a brilliant story that you need to be sharing with other people that would help them overcome a hump, a setback, they're not sure what to do, then you have an obligation to be sharing that story so that somebody else hears you and knows that they are not alone, that they are not the only one that this has ever happened to. You got this. I can hardly wait to see you shining. And if you want to continue this conversation, feel free to DM me over on Instagram, or if you're on my email list, you can always respond to one of my emails, because what you'll notice is I am the person who responds to them, not a team member, not some sort of a bot. I respond to all of the emails that get sent to me. I have this belief that if you take the time to email me, to reply to one of my emails, one of my newsletters, I'm going to reply back to you, because I want you to know that it's really me on the other side, because I care that much about my audience. I care that much about you. I care that much about your success. So I hope that you will join the newsletter. And if you are not on my list, please hop on over to speakandstandout.com/news, and you will get the very next newsletter that goes out, which at the moment is going out every Wednesday, but that might be changing to Thursdays. So the Wednesday, Thursday time frame, keep an eye on that. And also, if you are loving this podcast, I would ask that you would hit the follow button, because that tells all the different platforms that you want to get every single episode that drops live. And for this show, Be in Demand, that is twice a week. And I've got some great things that are coming up. Last summer, I did a special series during July and August, and I'm going to be doing the exact same thing this year as well. And the other special that I have coming up is for Mother's Day. Mother's Day, I have a special episode with 5 moms that are going to talk about being a mom and being an entrepreneur and running a business. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to come out the Thursday before Mother's Day. So we are going to be honoring 5 different moms. I've done this in the past, and I wanted to do it again. And I've done it for Father's Day, and chances are you're going to see a special episode with 5 other dads who are also running a business. So till next week, I want you to be in demand.